So anyway, let's get into the receipts. Genuinely, I think the only thing that could prevent me from considering legal action, he needs to make a TikTok apologizing and admitting he lied on his TikTok. You have to say, "I lied about you." Because let's get to the receipts, you guys. All right.
Keep saying that.
Here's the original post. Let's go through this of him saying he wanted to call in. Let's take a look.
Okay, just one more thing. Like, what did Aubrey lie about? The only thing he said is that he was brought on to be a bit. So, yeah, he never even said Ethan's name. He didn't even say the name of the podcast. He didn't even say the name of the comedian that was bigoted against him. The only, like, positive claim Aubrey made that directly had to do with your show is that he was brought on to be a bit and the crew was laughing about him. Both of that is, like, undeniably true. You have the podcast episode still up for people to watch.
Ethan, I'm an actor with dwarfism. I'm currently making a documentary comedy special about disability hate group on YouTube that's been cyberbullying me for over a year. I would love to call in tomorrow during the Tippy Toast segment and chat about Jimmy's little people phobia and dwarfism representation. The context, by the way, was that we were talking about how fucked up of a movie Tiptoes is. So it wasn't even like with zero context.
We were planning on watching it, which ended up failing miserably because we got copyright struck immediately.
I don't know what I thought about that idea, but I hear one of his comments saying he wants to speak with Jimmy, his idea. He says, this
is the best ever.
He actually writes it out like he's writing a contract.
Bro, write a contract and I'd write it reply, yeah.
I wonder if this is permissible evidence.
I mean, as close as it could be, I feel like.
Aubrey Smalls, volunteer to spend a day with Jimmy and change his mind about the dwarfism community. Maybe I can even get him to donate to our movie that has multiple dwarves in it. Thank you for sharing this. Isn't it amazing the impact representation can have on people's lives, outlooks, and how they treat others? Many people I meet admit they have zero knowledge on people with dwarfism, and that's not their fault. Over 100,000 people are born with dwarfism every year. To average height people, but all we have is what? Munchkins, Oompa Loompas, Peter Dinklage, and Game of Thrones. I'm trying to give people more reference when they think of little people in Hollywood. Since Hollywood is still putting us in the Dwarf Villager 1 category, I decided to write our own movie while telling a true story about my experience with online harassment due to my dwarfism. I, Aubrey Smalls, volunteer. But okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You know what I mean? Here is an email exchange that we had with him. This is when stuff that is not public, but is now public. Now, this is you talking to him, right, Dan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Dan says, "Hi there. Saw your post about potentially calling into the podcast during the Tiptoes stream to discuss dwarfism representation and Jimmy Lee. Now, unfortunately, the Tiptoes live stream didn't exactly pan out as expected, but we wanted to reach out for another option. Tomorrow, we're filming an episode with Ethan's dad and Jimmy Lee in an old couple sort of situation, and we'll need to confront Jimmy again. Notice the word confront about his problematic jokes to see if we can get through. It's cut off there, but I'm assuming to him.
Yeah.
The clips we want to ask him about is the dwarfism jokes from the previous appearance of his. We tell him specifically what we're...
Super specific about what we were doing. Totally transparent.
Like Jimmy had...
Fully aware.
I forget what he said, but it was something...
Okay, so these guys are like incapable of reading through an actual, like 2.5 paragraphs. So what does he say? Tomorrow we are filming an episode with Ethan's dad and Jimmy Lee in an old couple sort of situation, and we will need you to confront Jimmy again about his problematic jokes to see if we can get through. I don't know why the format is so bad, but through maybe to him. The clips we want to ask him about is the dwarfism jokes from the previous appearance of his. Now we wanted to ask, would you be interested in calling in to discuss with him why his jokes might be racist or might be problematic or something? We will totally be there to back you up during that conversation because he has to chill out a bit. Haha. If you're not comfortable with that, we totally understand. Another option would be to just send in a video message and we can play it for him during the recording. Would you be interested in either of those? Tape tomorrow around 12 p.m. PST. Let me know. Thanks so much for reaching out. Looking forward to hearing back. Okay, so they're saying that they're going to have Aubrey's back during this conversation with Jimmy Lee, and this makes it look like it's going to actually be a real conversation with Aubrey representing dwarfism, like pushing dwarfism representation, and Jimmy Lee actually getting confronted on his bigotry in a serious matter. How was it portrayed both in the pre-recorded segment and how was it portrayed on the podcast? Well, in the pre-recorded segment, obviously it was set up as a joke and then it was extremely confrontational. The clips that we saw, none of the crew actually had Aubrey's back in that specific conversation. And they're after the fact, they're like, oh my God, Jimmy Lee's doing such bad stuff, right? Maybe they can say that that is them having his back, but of course that's after the fact. That was after the recording. During the actual live segment, when they replayed the segment that they had edited, had recorded, that segment was played out as a bit. It was not an opportunity for Aubrey to actually confront Jimmy's bigotry and spread dwarfism representation, be an activist for people dwarfism. What it was a bit of, here's Jimmy Lee, isn't he bigoted? Isn't he bad? Oh, haha, look at that. He is being confronted by someone with dwarfism now, the exact same person he was being bigoted against. Even though this paragraph can be taken to be what happened, even though not really, because they didn't really have his back. It wasn't really a confrontation of Jimmy Lee's bigotry. It was more of like a joke about his bigotry being exposed to someone that he was bigoted against. It can also, when you read that paragraph, you can take it to mean that, you know, this is going to be a serious conversation and I'm actually going to have a platform to push back against anti-little people hate, push back against the bigotry that your show has been platforming. And instead, what did you get? You had a comedic segment. So yes, there was no actual representation that Aubrey was able to promote there. And like, you can chalk this up to a misunderstanding, but if it's a misunderstanding, then Aubrey is definitely within his right to say, I did not have a good experience on the show and I don't listen to it anymore. And because Aubrey said that, Ethan has been threatening to sue him now, which is crazy. Like, it's literally someone saying they did not have a good time on your show. And Ethan's like, no, you did have a good time on my show. I'm going to sue you so that you have to say you had a good time on my show.
Really super offensive to little people. And we had talked about it. We had acknowledged it. And we had told him specifically what it was. Now, what we wanted to ask, would you be interested in calling in to discuss with him why his joke might be offensive? We'll totally be there to back you up during the conversation because he has to chill out a bit. Haha. If you're not comfortable with this, we totally understand. Another option would be just send in a video message and we can play it for him during the recording. Would you be interested in either of those options? We're taping tomorrow around 12 p.m. Let me know. Thanks so much for reading and looking forward to hearing from you. So again, we gave him not only the option, we told him exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
He was going to come in, he was going to confront Jimmy Lee on this specific joke.
That there would be a compilation of his previous jokes and then that we would confront him about it, which is exactly what he cited as being like, you know, him not being in the loop.
We blindsided him.
Yeah, we blindsided him.
And then we even gave him the
I mean, you guys blindsided Jimmy Lee. You did not tell him that this was a serious segment to push back against his dwarfism bigotry. You set it up as a joke. I mean, quite obviously, you did not come in with good intentions for this. It's like, one person is thinking this is going to be a serious conversation. The other person is saying bigoted jokes. And then you have that comedic element of this misunderstanding clashing. That is the segment that you guys did. And you did play it off as laughs on the podcast. I mean, you guys were laughing about it before the segment. After the segment, you commented about how good the editing was. And then you were laughing even more when you're like, oh my God, look, Jimmy Lee is still extremely bigoted.
option like, hey, if this sounds like too, you know,
Yeah, if you don't want to do that, here's an alternative option. And then, of course, there's also the option of if you're not comfortable doing it, you don't have to do it at all.
I mean, you guys said you were going to like back Aubrey up. You didn't include any of those segments in the cut video that you did. So that is a misrepresentation of what was going to happen on the show. Maybe in the unedited version, one of the producers was like, Jimmy, you got to like fucking cut out the bigotry. But it's so dumb. If they're going to say Aubrey's lying, then I can nitpick what they're doing and say that they're lying as well.
Yeah, because our intentions were good. We wanted him to feel comfortable and have a wholesome experience where he came out looking and feeling good about it.
Yeah.
And that is what happened.
Yeah. We also were
And that is what happened. He did have a wholesome and comfortable experience. Yeah. Okay, so Ethan is saying now that Aubrey did have a comfortable experience talking with two guys that were bigoted against him. That is what happened. Oh my God, dude. This guy's ego is off the charts. Yeah, they wanted him to have a wholesome experience and be comfortable with what happened.
thrilled to platform an educational creator who could teach Jimmy.
It was a win-win-win.
We were thrilled.
Like, so we thought.
He responds, hi, hope you're doing well. Thanks for response. I'll be totally down to call into the chat with them, and I'm available tomorrow at 12 p.m. PST. Perfect. Thank you so much. I will shoot you an email tomorrow around 11, and we can set up a Zoom test, and then we'll be looking forward to chatting on the show. Thanks, Aubrey. Talk soon. Sounds great. Continuing on. You sent him a thank you?
Yeah, so this is afterwards.
After the show, Dan sent him a thank
After
you.
the recording. Hadn't aired yet, keep in mind. This is just, we
was not
recorded
live.
it. This was
It
not
in the
live.
tank.
Yep.
Hi, Aubrey. Thank you for calling in. That got a little spicy, and we appreciate you trying your best to educate and inform using the platform. Not sure how it will resonate with Jimmy's long term, but we're definitely going to debrief with him and talk it out. Hopefully it wasn't too much for you. They're more resistant than expected. We will keep you posted on when it will come out. Thanks again, and let me know if you have any questions. Aubrey said, thanks for having me. Such an honor to chat, even though I know things got awkward for everybody. I would honestly love to chat about calling back in to talk about what the Reddit post was actually about. I was really inspired by the outpouring of support from fellow H3 listeners who are rooting for a positive discussion on dwarfism, the dwarfism representation outside of Jimmy's comments. I'm usually not so serious, and neither is the project I'm making. It's more surrealistic, artistic, educational content than anything. Haha. I know we didn't have a chance to do that today. But I've seen the positive impact H3 has had in the YouTube atmosphere, and I would love to chat about the chance to move the to move the ball forward. I lost my spot because it zoomed in.
Move the ball forward for the community. I know.
Oh, there you go.
I know.
And plus, I know and love to. Let me read that again. To push.
Jesus Christ, dude, it's a fucking train wreck letting these guys read anything. So this is so funny. So Ethan is saying that Aubrey had such a good, wholesome, and comfortable experience on the show. Well, his producer is acknowledging that it was a little spicy, and maybe that message didn't really resonate with Jimmy. So hopefully it wasn't too much for you. So it was such a comfortable experience that the producer had to reach out and say, hopefully it wasn't too much for you. They were more resistant than we expected. And then Aubrey says, such an honor to chat, even though I know things got awkward for everyone. So the producer is saying, hopefully it wasn't too much for you. It was a little spicy. They were more resistant than we expected. Aubrey saying, I know things got awkward for everybody. And then Ethan says, no, you actually had a wonderful, wholesome, and comfortable time on my show. Okay, so just saying, the immediate aftermath of that segment flies in the face of what Ethan was saying. Literally, the receipts that Ethan brought on disprove what Ethan's trying to prove with the receipts, which is so fucking hilarious. So then what does Aubrey say? He says, I would honestly love to chat about calling back in to talk about what the Reddit post was actually about. So Aubrey's saying, yes, going on to these guys to try to push my narrative of like representation for little people. That didn't happen today. I would actually love to call back in and talk about what the Reddit post was actually about because I was not able to do that today. And what is the response afterwards? We would love to have you call back in. So the producer's like, yeah, you were not able to actually push your agenda. You were not actually able to like promote advocacy for little people. And then he says that I was really inspired by the outpouring support from fellow H3 listeners who are rooting for a positive discussion on dwarfism and dwarfism representation outside of Jimmy's comments. They're saying, I actually want to have a discussion on dwarfism and dwarfism representation. And he says, I know we didn't have a chance to do that today. And Ethan kind of like brushes that past that line, right? So literally they're saying that, yeah, you had a very awkward experience on the show. Hopefully it wasn't too much for you. And he's like, yeah, I did have a bad experience and I was not able to promote the message that I was trying to promote and what I wanted to talk about. And then he's like, I know we didn't have a conversation, like a serious conversation today. Can I call back in? And they're like, yeah, you can call back in. So literally, dude, Ethan saying you had a wholesome, good, and comfortable experience on our show where you were actually able to promote your dwarfism, like your pro-dwarfism advocacy agenda. Here are the receipts. And the receipt says, I did not have a comfortable time on the show. It was extremely awkward and I was not able to promote my agenda. And your producer agreed with it. It's mind-boggling, dude. Like literally the receipts that you show to try to prove your point disprove your point. And he's just not reading it properly. Like, once again, extremely poor media literacy.
Push the ball forward for the community I know and love. Plus, Ethan the other night said, disabled people are heroes. And I agree. There are so many iconic people with dwarfism out there that your listeners seem to be down to talk more about. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were on this. Let me know what you think. He seems to like me.
Yeah.
He seems to respect me at this time. For he's, interesting. Now I'm crashing out. He's getting his revenge on me because I'm crashing out. We continue. Dan responds to him.
Yep.
We would love to have you call back in. We are editing the episode together for next week as we have a guest tomorrow, so it'll likely be out next Friday. And then once it's out, we would love to debrief and talk more about your post and project. Once our editor finalizes it and we lock in the date, I'll be sure to let you know ASAP. You're the best. Talk soon. Hi, Aubrey. I know it's a bit last minute, but is there any chance you'd be available to call in today? We're currently live and we'd love to hear from you. I would love to. I'm watching now. Oh, he sounds like a big fan.
Uh-huh.
You guys for making
Dude, he's just being polite. He's calling into your show, saying, I would love to. I'm watching now. Yeah, sounds like a big fan. When you were talking about potentially calling in, of course you would watch the show. It's crazy, dude.
Happen and being so cool. You guys rock. Please let everyone know how thankful I am. He said after the show. Dan said, appreciate you, Aubrey. So does our audience. They were so thrilled with your call. That was great. And we're all thankful for the insight you provided. Best wishes and good luck on your project. That sounds like a horrible experience you had.
Yeah, awful, huh?
We abused him,
completely blindsided. We made and what a joke we made out of him. Oh my God!
He also made a public Reddit post, which unfortunately I was not able to screenshot before he deleted it, and I couldn't find it back.
Oh, I thought we had it.
It was the same general sentiment. It was a public thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we had this hours-long conversation with two bigots against a person that they're bigoted against. We edited it down to 10 minutes, and he was such a fan. And then he saw the actual segment that we did where we were laughing about that edit and being like, wow, look at these two bigots getting confronted with someone they're bigoted against, and they're laughing about that. And then Ethan's like, before he saw that edit, he was happy about the content, even though in the emails that Ethan leaks, he says he's not happy about it, and the producer says, yeah, it was an awkward experience for you. So Aubrey's one claim that he had on the show is that he did not have a good experience on the show. And then Ethan's like, no, you did have a good experience on the show. Let me prove it by showing these emails where my producer and you both admit it was not a comfortable experience for anyone involved. It's like, dude, this guy's actually brain dead. Like, I know people have been talking about the Ozempic frying his brain, but I've never seen anything this fucking stupid where Ethan says, you had a good experience on the show. I'm going to prove it by showing emails that says you did not have a good experience on the show. It's insane. It's like, oh, you were still polite to me. Okay. Wow. He was still polite to you in emails. That proves he had a good experience on the show, when in the paragraph he said, I did not have a good experience on the show. It's mind-boggling, dude. Like, honestly, does everyone on this show have brain rot? Is there some kind of fungus infecting their minds? Because I haven't seen any kind of critical thought on the show since I've been watching it. It's nuts. Like, no pushback whatsoever, no ability to read and comprehend the things that you're reading. And then you just get shit like this, where literally the evidence that they have to prove their point disproves their point. Holy shit,